Whoa, 2 videos one day. This is the first. But there's something that is going on in my mind, and I want to share it. This is a liquidity crisis in Finance 1.0, as Crypto Chico calls it. And I have been better understanding the concept. And what I'm seeing is the concept of liquidity defined and implemented in cryptocurrency land. Liquidity is where, let's talk about Finance 1.0. A central bank has cash and a borrower has, let's say, treasuries or mortgage-backed securities, which has been the fundamentals for the repo operations, where the borrower turns those securities into cash by giving them to the Fed, and the Fed gives cash in return with a predefined interest rate. So that's liquidity, at least an example of it in the status quo of our financial system. Now, there have been DeFi projects in Ethereum land dealing with the same concept of liquidity. My lord, one of the critical components of the financial system has been overwhelmingly replicated, implemented, and made fully functional from a cryptocurrency perspective. A person can use or gain access to liquidity, convert one asset to another. It is a tantalizing notion because when you're talking about cryptocurrencies, anyone can participate. Anyone can be the central bank. Now, from what I see, there's a couple of the most interesting projects. A couple. The two, to me, are Unibright and Kyber Network. Kyber Network uses Unibright. Kyber Network provides other services and functionality that makes it a project that is fascinating unto itself. But from what I see, Unibright is overwhelmingly, so far, the most successful liquidity provider. So, it is overwhelmingly representative of a bridge between old world financial systems and implementation of the concept of the old school concept in new school technology. You can transfer tokens to and from one another using Unibright. And you, as a person that has assets, can provide liquidity to the system. So Unibright charges 0.03, 0.3. I think it's 0.3% for swaps on the Unibright protocol. And when you have participated in the liquidity pool, you receive a portion of that transaction fee. Wow. Absolutely wow. Literally decentralized liquidity, where every person or entity participating in the liquidity gains from it. Conceptually speaking, not philosophically, conceptually speaking, that is, I find myself at a loss for words for the grandiose nature of what that means, that an individual can perform the same function as what the Federal Reserve does. I don't think the extremity, I don't think the full nature, what that really means, can be put into just a couple of words. It's an awe-inspiring concept. So it's one of the most tantalizing things I've seen of late. I don't ever make recommendations. I just state that this is something I've seen, and it's outright fascinating. Uniswap.exchange, UNISWAP.exchange, to see what it's all about. If you have assets, you can provide them to be part of the liquidity pool, receiving a portion of the fees associated with swaps. Decentralized way to create a revenue stream, to be the Federal Reserve. In times like these, I think some of the reason I wanted to share this or talk about this is because of what's going on with fiat, in that it is holistically, systemically in a crisis that I've talked about in previous videos. And now is the time to understand what's being built, these new technologies. Now is the time to be diversified. If you have all of your money in fiat, you're doing it wrong. If you have all your money in the stock market, definitely doing it wrong. If you have all your money in crypto, you're doing it wrong. What you want is diversification. Frankly, if you have all your money in gold and silver, you're also doing it wrong. We have no idea what's going to play out. What we have is a capacity to envision potential things that can play out. Prognostication. We see the way things are. We know they may do this, may do that, may do this. So I have my three, not predictions, my three prognostications that I talked about in my earlier video today about the way it may play out. And the only way to be best prepared is to handle yourself for all three scenarios. Gold, silver, cryptocurrencies. And obviously with cryptocurrencies, you could be substantially diversified. There are some of the most fascinating, powerful, meaningful technologies and projects built and being iterated on. And as I've said, with some of my biggest equity losses, I just want to participate. I want to be part of a special project. My biggest equity loss that I've ever had, I still want to be part of it. And it's a shame that they failed financially. And I don't care that they fail financially. I just still want to be part of what they're doing. And that is something I emailed them. Maybe I talked about it in a previous video, which particular equity it was, but that's a story for another time. So with cryptocurrency, you have a capacity to participate in these projects that have profound implications. And they're all somewhat still very questionable how things are going to play out, but the potential for Ethereum is mind-boggling. Bitcoin is liquidity itself. Has all the properties of gold. Clearly it went down with equities when everything crashed. But whether that's a direct correlation or there's that correlation is established as exactly why Bitcoin went down or not is not clear, meaning this was a liquidity crisis in the financial system, and it's quite possible that just liquidity of any sort was needed to pay premiums on debt to come up with margin call shortfalls. And if that liquidity could have been provided by the selling of Bitcoin and gold, that would totally explain things. So all of these things are tied together. Fiat, crypto, precious metals, anything that has value, even real estate. You can imagine people probably sold homes to come up with liquidity to deal with the fiat liquidity crisis. So it's very complicated to try and understand how all these puzzle pieces come together and how they interact with one another. But suffice it to say, they do. They have, and they will continue to. Overall, this video was about DeFi and liquidity pools. Absolutely fascinating. So I'll end it with, I encourage everyone to be diversified. How you diversify yourself, you'll have to come to your own conclusions. You'll have to do your own research and due diligence. But to protect yourself financially, to protect your best interest, your future, your family, it is absolutely imperative to be diversified. Ask questions, ask people for help, ask people for explanation and information. Ask me, I'm here. But do it, because I assure you, with absolute certainty, this is going to be one heck of a decade of change. This crisis will not end without substantial change. When we come out of this, it's going to be nothing like the way it was before. And I say that with a sense of anxiety and an equal amount of excitement. So be safe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.